Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and happy first day of Kwanzaa. I am here today to do the Kwanzaa-Reflect-A-Thon, which was announced by Njeri at Onyx Pages, who I'll link her video below. This Reflect-A-Thon is a really interesting idea, which takes the 7 principles of Kwanzaa and takes a look at each principle, books that you have read that represent those principles, and gets you to reflect on them. I saw this announcement video and was super excited because this is exactly the sort of thing that I joined Booktube for, and then I was very sad because I looked through all the books that I've read the past year and I had a really hard time finding books that I thought represented these principles. However, I looked through my TBR and found a ton of books that I thought would work really well for these principles. So rather than this year reflecting on what I have read for these principles, I'm going to choose 7 books that I would like to read in 2019. And then next year I can participate in the Reflect-A-Thon with 7 great books that I will have read with the specific intent of focusing on these principles. So hopefully I'll have some really good reflections at that point. The first principle is Umaja Unity. And for this, I thought I would read Kindred by Octavia Butler. I think what's really interesting about Kindred is that it is a science fiction novel about a Black woman in the 70s who time travels to 1815 Maryland and has to help her ancestor, who is a white slave owner. I think that especially given everything that's going on with the US right now, it's good to remember that we're all kind of connected. You know, we all have maybe different views, different life experiences, but it's important to be able to understand and help each other. And I'm hoping that this book will be a good way to reflect on that. The second principle is Kujichagulia, which is self-determination. And for this, I would like to read Heartberries by Terese Mailhot, who is a First Nations Canadian author. This book is her memoir exploring a very traumatic past, coming to grips with it, finding her own voice, finding her own power and her way to be herself and interpret her life and take control. So this is not only a native voice, which I've been wanting to read more of, but just that working through everything that's happened to you and taking ownership and saying, this is my life and I'm gonna do what I want with it. I really am looking forward to this book. The next principle is Ujima, collective work and responsibility. And for this, I would like to read Evicted by Desmond. I think that this principle focuses on problems being not just one person's, but the whole community's. And homelessness is a big issue, especially where I live. There's a lot of people who are homeless, and it's very often to do more with gentrification and changing economics of a region than it is to do with anybody's personal choices. So I think that it would be really useful to gain more insight, more understanding, and more compassion for what people are going through, and then be better informed as to what kinds of changes we can make in our communities and to our legal system to make sure that we make sure everybody's getting helped. The next principle is Ujamaa, Cooperative Economics. And for this, I would like to read Doing Good Better by MacAskill. So the point of this principle is to make sure that it's not only yourself that benefits, but that your whole community is thriving economically and that you're working together for everyone's good. And I think that this book should have some good ideas about it. It focuses on how do we make life choices about what we buy, what kind of careers we pursue, how we use our money to make sure that we're helping other people as well as ourselves and creating a good community and a good world. So I would really like to learn a lot from this about how to be more cooperative. The next principle is Nia, or purpose. This focuses on how to develop your community. So for this book, I'd like to read Half the Sky by Kristof and Sheryl Wudunn. And this book looks at how investing in women can make an enormous impact in areas of great poverty, because when you invest in women, you have a lot of return on that money. So how do we reduce poverty and create economic growth through investing in women? The next principle is kuumba, creativity. For this, I'd like to read The Displaced by Viet Thanh. This is an edited volume with pieces by authors who are all refugees. So what I like about this in terms of creativity is all of these refugee authors took their experiences and made art out of it. They made something that is a beautiful piece of writing which can connect to other people, help them understand their life experiences and what's going on, and build that connection and a better world, hopefully. And the last principle is imani, faith. For this, I would like to read the Eleanor Roosevelt biology trilogy by Blanche Wiesen Cook. I think that when I think of imani, this idea of having faith in our leaders, our community, and our purpose, Eleanor Roosevelt really represents that to me. She was an amazing woman who fought very hard for a lot of social issues such as racial and gender equality, and just seemed like someone who had a very strong moral compass. So I would like to read more about her and be inspired by the leaders that we have. So those are all the books that are on my Kwanzaa to be read list for 2019. If anybody else is doing the Kwanzaa Reflect-A-Thon, I would be very interested in seeing what you've read or your reflections or what you plan to read. So go ahead and let me know below that you're doing that. And even if you're not, go ahead and check out Njeri's channel and her announcement video, because there's going to be a lot of really interesting people reflecting on these principles each day of Kwanzaa for the next 7 days. Okay, everyone, thank you and happy Kwanzaa.